Hi, and welcome back to Deep Six Wrestling. I'm your host, Just Pat, and this is another episode of 5 Matches to Watch, the weekly show where I bring you my 5 personal recommendations from across the wrestling world of matches that happened this past week. The only rule for this show is that there can only be one match per show, so not an entire NXT card, not an entire AEW card, not an entire New Japan card, or a 205 Live show. You get the point. It has to be one match per event. So, with that being said, we'll get started. Just a reminder, if you're new to the channel, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to Deep Six Wrestling. I myself will be covering the entire G1 Climax, which starts on July the 6th. I'll also be live tweeting for the shows that I get up for, or the ones that I stay up for. I haven't really decided how I'm going to do it, but that will be done. So our Twitter is at Deep Six Wrestling. That will be right below me in this video, as well as down in the description below. So be sure to follow us all over there. And with that being said, let's get into the video this week and talk about the 5 matches to watch that happened this past week. Coming in at number 5 this week, we have Andrade with Zelina Vega versus Apollo Crews from Smackdown on Tuesday. And finally, I have a reason to wear my Apollo Crews shirt because he was on TV and he wrestled a match. So, you know, good job. I bought this shirt when Apollo debuted in NXT. I expected big things from him, and I have been nothing but disappointed since. And that's not his fault, obviously. It's more or less they called him up probably a year early. I think he really would have shined in NXT had he stayed down for at least a year. But, you know, he's good in the mid-card, and I haven't given up all hope. And this match, for what it was a showcase for both Andrade, who's returned after a series of unfortunate events for him, with the passing of his mother and then his aunt, and then Apollo Crews, who again hasn't been on TV. I think they said this is his first match since being moved to SmackDown in the shakeup, and these two had a really solid TV match. It wasn't anything like special for like a pay-per-view or anything, but for just a weekly television program, this was actually really good. These two are both insanely talented wrestlers. Andrade's probably my favorite in the WWE, possibly in the world. It kind of changes like on a week-to-week basis, but he's just so good. He's so fluid in the ring. I can't name you a bad match I've seen of his. And then the pairing with Zelina Vega has just only elevated him, I think, in my opinion. I think she's excellent as a manager. I think I haven't really seen enough of her in the ring to say she's a great wrestler or a good wrestler even, but the pairing works really well, and I think that there is definitely an Andrade push coming now that he's back and ready to get into things. I could see potentially Andrade versus Kofi being done down the line. I wouldn't be mad if Andrade is the one to take the belt from Kofi. That would be an incredible match if they got to actually main event a show or semi-main event. Oh, just tantalizing. But then that also rings the question of Apollo Crews. Where does he go from here? I don't know. I really couldn't tell you what you do with Apollo. I know that they teased the Chad Gable team. I don't see that happening anymore. It's an interesting one. Again, Apollo's really talented. His mic skills aren't the best, but in the ring, that guy is so goddamn good. I really can't say anything bad about Apollo, and I really hope he bounces back from just wandering in obscurity in the mid-card. Give him a manager, repackage him. I really wouldn't mind Apollo Crews as a heel. I feel like that would be an interesting thing. I still think he would probably need a manager, but it's definitely something to look into. You know, I think we're in a position right now where we're about to probably hit the reset button after Extreme Rules when Heyman and Bischoff take over. Why not do something with Apollo? I don't know what, but you know, even if it's just to send him back to NXT, I feel like he's too talented to not be doing anything. And I think, again, this match really showcased that, and that's something I really hope that going forward we see more of. I don't know if it's just specifically on SmackDown. I feel like Raw would make sense too, is showcase matches for guys that aren't really doing anything, or guys that have just debuted and don't have imminent plans. Just give them these. Again, this was a great showcase for both guys, and I really would like to see more of it. So going forward for the rest of the year in 2019, if I could ask for one thing on main roster, give me more showcase matches with underused, new, or just give me showcase matches with people that don't get screen time and that are good in the ring, and I'll be happy, because again, it's something fresh. This felt fantastic. I was into it the whole time. So if you haven't watched SmackDown this week, go check out Andrade versus Apollo. You really won't be disappointed. These two are both so good and deserve all the praise in the world for this. And at number 4 this week, we have Cody versus Darby Allin from AEW's Fyter Fest show that happened on Saturday. So this was an interesting one. This wasn't one of the matches that I was just really looking forward to. To be honest, this card was fine. Personally, the show for me was, I keep referring to it as the reverse Stomping Ground for me, where Stomping Ground started off hot and it got colder for me. I felt that was the opposite for Fyter Fest. I thought the pre-show was pretty lackluster. And then the women's triple threat I wasn't really into, but as the show went on, I got into it, and I feel like this is probably the match that started it. Or I don't remember if the Fatal 4 was before this or after it, but I think it was before this. But this was the match that really kind of kicked off just the greatness of the 6-man, and then the main event. I thought, while this isn't the best match on the card, I think that would without a doubt go to the 6-man. This is the one to watch. Darby Allin gives just an insane performance in this, and I think this is the match that's going to probably make him a star, or at least begin that. It's not going to be just an instantaneous thing, but I think this is going to be a match that people look back and be like, this is where it started. And I think a lot of this probably has to do with Cody. Nobody really. I mean, there's people out there that think Cody's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I don't agree with that. I think he's so good with storytelling in the ring, and he knows that. I think that comes probably from his dad and his brother, and I think this match was a great example of that. I thought the story they told was really good, with Darby being the new guy and Cody being cocky and not really paying attention to him, and it ended up coming back to bite him. They did the time limit. The time limit, I'm a big fan of this, because in New Japan it's there, and occasionally you'll get a draw. But the spoiler, on AEW, we actually got a draw, and it establishes that this is here. And towards the end of the match, it really just they kept announcing it, and it was oh, okay, we're gonna head for this, and then it actually happened, and it was oh, okay. It was a fresh finish, and I was a big fan of it, to be honest. I thought the draw really helped sell this match. I thought, both guys needed the win, I think. I think Darby needed it more, but the fact that they went with the draw was interesting, and it makes sense. And then you had the weird... Shawn Spears. I loved him as Ty Dillinger. I'm interested to see what they're doing. I'm not a fan of the hard chair shot to the head. Should never have been done, even if it's for publicity, or if they said it was gimmicked. It's just, no... I never need to see that again, so that's going to be a no from me, but I am interested to see where this goes. I'm sure that's not going to be the most exciting match at All Out, which is most likely going to be Cody versus Shawn Spears, but I'm sure some people are into it, and it'll be a good match. I don't doubt that, but this is not really the way to start it, and I feel like it kind of, after how hot the Darby and Cody match got, I really feel like this kind of was just it left a sour taste in my mouth personally. And also, God, I've never seen a Darby Allin match before this, but right towards the end of the match, Cody's out on the apron, and Darby goes for, I don't even know what move, but he just he's on the apron, and he just launches backwards, and Cody moves out of the way, and he just lands flat on his back on the apron. It's so hard. It looked like I would never do that. That looked like that man's back could have been broken. Why? I mean, if it's safe, then okay, but it looks so dangerous, and I just, oh God, as soon as I saw that, that was a legit holy shit moment. Kind of just shocking that spot happened, and then followed up by a hard chair shot to the head. But this is the world we're living in. So hopefully AEW doesn't try that again with the hard chair shot ever. But again, this match definitely worth watching for Darby Allin's performance, and to continue to see Cody kind of grow as this. He's not a ring general, but I'd say he's great at leading a story in the ring, and I think this is a great example of that. So definitely, if you haven't seen Fyter Fest, go check out this. But if you want to watch the best match on the show, without a doubt, go check out the 6-man with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, and the Laredo Kid, who was also really impressive. Never seen him wrestle, but those would be the two to watch. And then obviously Janela and Moxley had a brutal death match pretty much. So AEW, yeah, go check it out if you have the time. It's a pretty short show. Check out Cody versus Darby Allin for sure. Coming in at number 3 this week, we have Cameron Grimes versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. This is the formerly known as Trevor Lee for Cameron Grimes and Shane Strickland / Killshot for Isaiah Scott. And this was on this week's NXT, and it's part of the new NXT Breakout Tournament. Last week saw Angel Garza versus Joaquin Wilde. This match, I don't want to say it was as good as that one. It was a different match. This was very hard hitting. Like, the strikes in this match were something else. And I feel like I'm more in the know with Trevor Lee's career than I was with Shane Strickland. I watched some Lucha Underground, saw him as Killshot, thought that was really cool. But I don't know if I've ever seen just a straight up Shane Strickland match outside of Lucha Underground. Whereas Cameron Grimes or Trevor Lee, I saw a bunch of his matches prior to him coming to NXT. However, this is now NXT. They both have new names and new characters. So that doesn't really matter anymore. So what can I say about this match? I think right off the bat, Isaiah Scott just comes off as a superstar. I think this guy has the potential to be absolutely huge. He has a great look to him. He's got charisma, and his theme song is so good. Like, I doubt it's gonna stay this if he like ever gets to break out in NXT, but I'm a big fan of his theme song on this. Like, he came out and I was just like bobbing my head, and I was like, this is very slick. So big fan of that. And Cameron Grimes, very generic theme song. I can't really say anything about that one. But Trevor Lee's really good. I'm a big fan of Trevor Lee. Or Cameron Grimes. Jesus, that's going to get hard to not do. But big fan of the Cameron Grimes that we have now. It seems like his whole shtick of being just like this ruthless, like, Southern brawler who's also just really good at doing these crazy spots. It seems like that's going to continue, which is cool because some of his moves are just so cool. And I'll mention that in a bit. But there was this one sequence in the match, and I think this is like probably where it really caught my attention. It was probably like 3/4 of the way in. You had Isaiah Scott go to the outside through, I don't even remember what happened. I think Grimes like tossed him over, and like he held on to the ropes, and he's tall enough that he like landed on the floor on his feet and kind of walked it off. Grimes like was celebrating. He turns around and sees him, and then he goes for like a suicide dive where he's going to attempt it, and Scott slides into the ring, and then Grimes slides out because he doesn't go for the suicide in the end, and then he goes around where Scott was at, and Scott's back in the ring, so Grimes slides in, and as he's sliding in, I've never seen this before, and this is where I was like, what the hell was that? Isaiah Scott goes for this is my best description. I don't know what it was or what the move is, but he goes for like a handspring body splash and like lands on the back of Cameron Grimes' neck, and I was like, what is this? And it instantly caught my attention, and then it continued. Isaiah Scott hit a rolling flatliner that looked great. Cameron Grimes hit a sit-out powerbomb that just looked so brutal. And then you had Grimes. I'm just going off of WWE 2K, what they call the move, but it's like a flip moonsault where it's kind of like a Spanish fly to a degree where they both flip, but it's like Cameron Grimes like catches Isaiah Scott as he's like running at him, and then they flip and he lands. And then I don't know what to call it, but in 2K it's called a flip moonsault. Just gonna call it Grimes, flip moonsault. And then he sets him up and he gets him with the driving double stomp. And I have loved this move since I first saw Grimes do it when he was back as Trevor Lee on the Indies and an Impact, and he kept it. And I know Kofi Kingston has been doing it for like the last year or so, but I've never really thought his looked that good. It doesn't look as brutal or as impactful as Cameron Grimes does, and so I'm happy that he's using that as a finisher, and I really hope Kofi just stops using it because it's not one of his better moves. But definitely, this whole tournament's this is 2 matches in, and both have been very exciting matches. The crowd wasn't as into this one as the previous one, despite them seeming to like love Isaiah Scott. And yes, watch this match. It's really good. Both guys are just very talented and definitely seem to have big careers on the horizon. Hopefully in WWE, because I feel like these guys could definitely be part of this new class of really solid superstars. I think they said Cameron Grimes is only like 25. That guy is going to be huge. When you think of like the young guys that they have and like him and Velveteen, just this is going to be a crazy couple of years in the next, I don't know, the next like 5 to 10 years with new people coming up to main roster and making their names. So it's a very exciting time. If you haven't seen NXT yet, be sure to go watch Cameron Grimes versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. Coming in number 2, we have Samoa Joe and the Viking Raiders versus the New Day from Monday Night Raw. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch Raw live. I watched the opening, and then I tuned out after this, like, Samoa Joe started the brawl, and it got turned into a 6-man. I was not in the mindset for that. I saw 6-man, and I kind of just went, like, this is more of the same. I don't want to watch this. And I continue to hear good things, and I ended up watching Raw yesterday, and I enjoyed it for the most part. I do think that people were being a little hyperbolic about some things, but for the most part, it was a really solid show. And this match was excellent from top to bottom. I have nothing but praise for this. I thought everybody came off looking excellent in this. Still don't really know what the Viking Raiders are doing, because they're not the number 1 contenders for the Raw tag titles, and they still kind of feel directionless. I hope that they don't just get turned into like Samoa Joe's lackeys. I know some people have said Sarah Logan is going to get repackaged as I guess their manager. I don't really know how that's going to work. I don't want that, because I think Sarah Logan is too talented of a wrestler to be just litigated to a manager role, but time will tell. Yeah, I really hope that doesn't happen. I think Sarah on her own, as long as she can get better with promos, has the potential to be a real big star in the women's division, and the Viking Raiders don't need a manager, in my opinion. So hopefully they kind of just steer clear from that and just push these guys as the monsters that they are. So with that being said, there's really, again, this was a really solid match, but there's only one real segment to talk about in this, and I normally try not to give like straight up spoilers for matches, but this is one where I kind of have to just talk about it. So if you don't want to get this spoiled, or if you haven't seen the match yet, then just tune out. You can just skip over to the next section for the number 1 match this week. So yeah, this whole final sequence was it was great. It featured everybody in the match getting something in, and bear with me because I have it all written down, and it's a lot. So you have a knee strike from Eric to Kofi, which sends Kofi outside, rolling through under the bottom rope, and then Big E runs in, hits an over the head belly to belly suplex on Eric, and then Ivar comes in, and he gets sent to the outside, and then he blocks a suicide dive from Big E. And then Xavier comes in, and Xavier knocks Ivar off the apron. And then Xavier Woods goes through the middle rope to Eric with, like, I guess you would call it like an assisted, like, baseball kick, not really a slide, and knocks Eric down. And then Ivar comes back in the ring, and he hits a suicide dive onto Woods. And then as Ivar's getting back up on the ring, Kofi comes in, and he hits a Trouble in Paradise on Ivar. And then Joe comes in out of nowhere as the legal man, and he gets the Coquina Clutch in on Kofi. And so this is the big thing. Kofi has gone unpinned and unsubmitted since winning the title at WrestleMania, and he takes his first loss on Raw to Samoa Joe by passing out to the Coquina Clutch. This is very interesting. This whole feud kind of started off very random, and while it was intriguing, I don't think anybody was like, oh yeah, this is just like, I love this story, but this is getting into some interesting things. Kofi now has his first defeat since winning the title, and Joe actually has something that he can boast about doing. He submitted Kofi. He didn't tap him out. He made him pass out in the Coquina Clutch. So I'm very excited for this. This is probably my most it's between this and AJ versus Ricochet as my most anticipated matches for Extreme Rules. I think both will be great. The freshly turned heel AJ and the club, fantastic stuff. But this might inch it out. I think Joe's doing great work. I think Kofi's doing excellent work. These two together, I think, is going to be magic. Please don't make it a ladder match. It doesn't make any sense. The whole story is the Coquina Clutch. What's he gonna do? Like, put Kofi in the coquina clutch and just like make him go to sleep and then climb a ladder. No, make it like, if anything, just make it a no holds barred match. But I think they're doing that for the tag match with Drew McIntyre, Shane McMahon, The Undertaker, and Roman Reigns. Why is there a no holds barred tag team match with guys who don't use submissions as finishers? I mean, like, there's the Hell's Gate and there's Shane's Triangle, but oh god. Okay, anyway, yeah, so this match was great. I'm very excited to see where Samoa Joe versus Kofi goes, and hopefully the Viking Raiders get to do something soon, because maybe there's a refocused effort for tag team wrestling now that the Street Profits have been called up. Who knows? But if you haven't seen Raw, definitely this is the second match on the show, so definitely go out of your way to watch Samoa Joe and the Viking Raiders take on the entire New Day in a 6-man match that is definitely worth your time. All right, and finally coming in at the coveted number 1 spot for this week's list, we have Will Ospreay versus Robbie Eagles from New Japan's Southern Showdown in Australia. I believe this was the first night, not the second night, and this match was great. Will Ospreay's having the year of his life right now. His entire wrestling career, this is the moment it's been leading towards, and it is his year. There's nobody else who's having a 2019 like him. And while the whole debate goes on of Ospreay versus Rollins or who's the best wrestler in the world, one thing's for certain: Will Ospreay is undeniably having the best wrestling year in 2019. And to that end, about Ospreay and Rollins, I believe Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world right now, or at least the best wrestler of 2019, whereas I think Rollins is probably the best sports entertainer. I think Rollins is a great wrestler, but he's not really getting to have like the quality of matches that he's capable of. Whereas Will, while he's having these great and excellent matches, I don't really connect with Will on like a charismatic or like through his promo like levels. I think he's more competent as a wrestler right now, and I think he's being allowed to have these insanely great matches that I think Rollins is also capable of, but at the time being right now is not happening. So I think in terms of they're different like entities, you know. One is in a pro wrestling company that does strictly wrestling rather than doing things like romance storylines and such. And then you have another who's in a multi-billion dollar company that focuses on telling stories and entertainment. And so they're both two of the best wrestlers in the world, no matter what you think. But I do think, for the sake of the argument, that Ospreay is probably in the right here. Though Rollins should be claiming to be the best in the world, and that WWE has the best wrestling because he's the face of the company. So I'm glad that they've kind of put their beef beside them and to the back. Again, they're both very talented people who I truly adore. But anyway, for Robbie Eagles versus Will Ospreay, this match lasted a little over 30 to 35 minutes, I believe. And it started off a little slow for me. Wasn't too into it, but it really started picking up. And these guys just started hitting moves that I've never seen before. It just felt like they were creating moves as they went, and I loved that. Will Ospreay kind of has that effect on me. He's so smooth in the ring, and literally everything he hits looks great. Although, I will say, there was one spot in this match that was so clearly a botch, and it was like on par with like the Aleister Black mask to Lars Sullivan from last year, where he hits the Black mask but he doesn't hit it like at all, and you can clearly see he doesn't hit it, and Lars just falls down. In this one, it's Ospreay hits an enziguri to Robbie Eagles, and Robbie Eagles just falls down, but it's completely, obviously it wasn't, but like, looking back at it, it just felt like a foot between the two of them. But as a whole, the match was excellent. There was some really innovative offense. There was like this one spot where Eagles was like up on top of the turnbuckle with his back facing the ring, and Ospreay did like a cartwheel, it was either double knees or a drop kick into Eagles' back, and it looked great. I still think that the Hidden Blade is an excellent finisher, even though he's not really using it as a finisher, but like as a signature move, even as a finisher, it's deadly, especially after the whole Coda thing. at Wrestle Kingdom. And then you have the Stormbreaker and the Oscutter. His arsenal is just stacked to the gills with cool moves. And Robbie Eagles is somebody who I'm kind of interested in. I don't think he's quite there yet as like a star. He's getting there, and I really was impressed with him in this match, but I still think he needs a little more time to just like build up a character and build up his actual wrestling acumen. But I think that within the next 2 to 3 years, I think Robbie Eagles will probably be in this, not in the spot where Will Ospreay is, but probably in the spot where like Will Ospreay and Ricochet were like a couple years ago before they like blew up. So I'm excited to see that. And with that being said, I do just want to talk quickly about Will Ospreay and the G1 Climax. This is going to be an insane tournament. I personally, if you've checked out my predictions video, which will be down in the comment section below for the entire G1, I do have Will Ospreay making it to the finals and losing to Tetsuya Naito. But I think this is going to be just an incredible tournament for Will. Again, he's on fire match after match after match. He is tearing it down, and it's evidenced in the match he just had with Robbie Eagles. To be honest, I could totally see, I don't think it's going to happen, but I can totally see Will Ospreay winning the G1. It's very exciting. So if you're a Will Ospreay fan, definitely expect probably a lot of his matches from the G1 to make it onto these weekly 5 matches to watch videos. So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm really going to try to, not just make every one of these videos based on G1 matches, because there's going to be like multiple days in a week, and I don't want that to happen, but it's bound to. But Will Ospreay, Robbie Eagles, definitely worth checking out. If you have New Japan World, the show's up on there. Great stuff from both guys. Robbie Eagles looks impressive. Will Ospreay continues to just shine in 2019, and he looks forward to his first G1 Climax, and I really can't wait. So check out this match. Again, if you have New Japan World, it's worth it. And if you don't have New Japan World, it's also worth it because it's cheaper than the WWE Network, and you're about to enter the G1 Climax season, and this is so exciting. So definitely get on that if you haven't yet. And that brings us to the end of our video this week. Thank you for joining me as I talk to you about my 5 matches to watch across the wrestling world from this past week. I really enjoyed getting to talk about these matches and just getting to share my thoughts. And this was a really solid week for wrestling. Again, Raw was really great. NXT was great. Surprisingly, 205 Live, my show, was not that stellar this week. But I believe in them. They'll bounce back. And as mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'll be covering the G1 Climax here on this channel. So be sure to like this video and subscribe to Deep Six Wrestling for all of your G1 news, reviews, and reactions. And also be sure to follow us on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. The @ for that will be right below me and then down in the description as well. I'll be live tweeting any of the G1 shows that I stay up for or that I wake up for, and also just tweeting out random thoughts on things about the actual matches. And it's going to be an interesting tournament. So if you're joining me for this, I really appreciate it, and it's going to be a fun one. And I really can't wait to see what they've got in store for us this year for the G1 Climax. But with that all being said, this is the end of the video, so I bid you farewell. I hope you have a great weekend, and if you're in the US, I hope you have a happy 4th of July. And I'll see you next week when we get started with the G1 Climax. Peace.
It was hot. It was hot. Roman, you just can't take the heat. I'm just too hot. They call me Mr. Fahrenheit.